Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Chargers played a game where someone blew a big lead, and for once, it wasn't LA. Also, we take an inside look at how defenses disguise their coverage, and Ohio State is still trying to beat Michigan, even though they face Tennessee on Saturday. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
At one point on Thursday night in LA, the Denver Broncos had a 24-10 lead. That lead evaporated quickly after a free kick, which we haven't seen in decades. And all of a sudden, the LA Chargers are winning a 34-27 game that has monumental impacts in the AFC playoff race. Sarah Bettinger from Locked On Broncos joins me now. And Sarah, how did this game slip away from the Broncos?
I think they abandoned the run with Audric Estime, which was working in the first half. You didn't see a lot of that to start the second half. And then obviously the defense just not able to get off the field, whether it was Justin Herbert finding guys coming on crossing routes or if he was making plays running the football. They just weren't able to really sustain anything defensively. And of course, like we talked about in the lead up to this game, you're not going to get 5 turnovers from your defense every single week. Those guys, they needed to come up with some bigger plays and moments. And I think just momentum swung the Chargers' way at a critical point, and the Broncos couldn't get it back.
Yeah, let me just correct that quickly. 21-10 and 24-13 were the leads the Broncos had in this one. They got the ball coming out of the second half. Now, we've seen the Broncos show a greater ability to score points than a lot of people thought they would be able to this season at various points. This is against a Chargers defense that has, for much of the season, looked pretty good. Is there something you can take positive out of this, at least from the offense, and say, hey, look, when it gets to the playoffs and we have to play these best teams, we actually have some evidence that this offense may be able to do that?
Yeah, finally got the running game going in this game against the Chargers, especially early on. I know that led to 3 straight touchdowns on their first 3 drives in the game. It was really balanced offensively. And then also, no turnovers, which was really huge for them after that Colts game where Bo Nix had 3 interceptions, just taking care of the football. You put 27 points up there. I know that 3 of them came, kind of late as they're trying to get back on the board, get the onside kick, things like that. But I mean, it's really going to come down to, can this defense be the defense that it was earlier in the year when it was just tough sledding for anybody to get anything going on them, but offensively may have found some balance finally.
What do you think the difference is for that defense? Why are they not playing to that level?
I think they're just not getting off the field on third downs. And really it's that ability to do that for this pass rush that's been there all season long. Highest pass rush win rate in the league, most sacks in the league, right? So you expect, hey, at a game-changing point, they're going to be able to do that. And of course, against the Chargers, they did late, but it was a little bit too late. It was when the Chargers went up by 3 points, you pinned the Broncos back again. You kind of just put it in the offense's hands and they weren't able to get the job done there. So maybe a tide turning type of thing, or it may just be a, hey, bend, don't break kind of thing. And the Chargers in this game were able to get 6 points instead of 3 in a lot of instances.
I mentioned at the top that this had monumental impacts in the AFC playoff race. That's mostly true for the teams on the outside looking in of the AFC playoffs. The Broncos and Chargers still have pretty strong chances to make the postseason here. I'm going to ask this as diplomatically as I can, Sarah. Does it really matter? Do either of these teams really have a shot to do anything in the AFC playoffs?
I mean, I guess you never know what can happen when you get in. I know last time you and I talked, that was really the goal. It's just, hey, get to the dance and kind of see what happens. You have kind of the elements to potentially make a little bit of a run with your pass rush defense that forces turnovers, at least has most of the year, right? But at this point, you're looking at potentially going to Buffalo, which they look like one of the most complete teams in the league. So that's something still that I still think at Broncos country, they would probably want to see that just to see it happen, to get back to the playoffs for the first time since 2015, to make that happen. I think obviously, there's still 2 games left to be played. Broncos and Chargers obviously tied with the same record right now, but the Chargers have beat them twice. So you're going to need a lot of different and weird things happen. Scott Hansen's got the witching hour during the 12 o'clock games on NFL Red Zone. This might be the witching hour of the NFL season, which could play either in the Broncos' favor or against it.
Yeah, and look, you don't have to tell Broncos fans. They have been on the wrong end of those games in the postseason where they were heavy favorites and couldn't come out on top. And they've been the other way. Tim Tebow against the Pittsburgh Steelers, that was a game that they were not expected to win. They pull it out in miraculous fashion. So we know once the playoffs get here, weird stuff can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to just get there to find out, right? That's exactly why you want to just get in, just get to the dance. I mean, that's all that needs to happen. And for this Broncos team, you've already secured a winning season for the first time since 2016. Now get back to the playoffs and give some hope for this franchise going forward. I think that's the key right now. And you don't necessarily want to have to rely on, well, this team could lose and this team, has this % chance and this. Just go win a game over the final 2 weeks. You got the Bengals and you got the Chiefs. It's not going to be easy. Nobody said it was going to be easy. And obviously the Broncos, that game against the Chiefs looms large, right? The blocked field goal at the end, that's huge. So of course you want to just get to the dance and see what happens. But now it's a little bit more complicated for this Broncos team.
You can stay up to date all year on the Denver Broncos by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Broncos on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. You're locked on a Football Friday. Coming up, we go inside the mind of a defender trying to disguise his coverage. Before we get to that, Patrick Mahomes got some good news on Thursday. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. You can look at the first round of the college football playoff for that wager. None of the lines for the first rounds are particularly close, but one game has a double-digit spread. FanDuel has Texas favored over Clemson by 11.5. The Tigers have to go to Arlington for that game. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Patrick Mahomes suffered a high ankle sprain in last week's game, but will start on Saturday as the Chiefs face the Texans. He will carry no injury designation into the contest. Chiefs coach Andy Reid never ceases to be amazed by his quarterback.
Than before, and he amazes me every time he does it. I mean, the guy, he's so mentally tough, and just it's a mindset that he has going into it, and so. Where he was a few days ago, yeah, I'd probably say it was a long shot, but he's done well with it.
One of the keys to the Commanders delaying the Eagles division championship celebration will be in a recently acquired defensive back.
I'll tell you something that's going to prevent the Eagles potentially from staying balanced to a certain extent, especially in the pass game on either side of the field, is the presence of Marshawn Lattimore. Yeah. The New Orleans Saints got their first look at the new Commanders cornerback. Of course, they know Marshawn Lattimore very well, and they proceeded to target him 0 times on 29 coverage snaps the Lattimore had against the New Orleans Saints. So it was very, very heavy sign of respect that the Saints gave to the cornerback that they had just traded. So I'm really interested to look at how Jalen Hurts comes out and attacks Marshawn Lattimore, because, I mean, Marshawn is going to be on one of his top receivers. And, both of those receivers are going to be like, look, I know that Marshawn's him, but I'm him too. And you need to throw me the ball and trust me to make a play. So we'll see.
Sure.
How that goes. Maybe Marshawn can reignite the A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts hate each other conversation after this week. We'll
God,
see.
I hope not. I do not want to come to that again.
The Ravens need to win this Sunday against the Steelers. Really need to win.
Because the Ravens are 1-8 in their last 9 games against the Steelers. It has not been a rivalry at this point. It's the Steelers show, and that's what it is. The Ravens have to take it back. And so Lamar, he has never played in both games. He started for 6 seasons. He's never played in both games against Pittsburgh in his career. He also has only played 1 time at M&T Bank Stadium against the Steelers in his 6-year career as a starter. That was back in 2020. when there were barely any fans in the stadium. So Lamar has never played in front of a full stadium of Ravens fans in his entire 6-year career as a starter. 7 years, obviously, he's been in the league.
Defenses in the NFL must be complex to face the talent level at quarterback on a week-to-week basis. Current Green Bay Packers defensive back, rookie Evan Williams, joined me on my other show, Locked on Packers, and discussed how he and the rest of the Packers defense are working to perfect their disguises. The coverage shell that you guys are running seems to change like every play. You guys mix coverages really well and seem to be pretty good at all of them. Is, you know, when we talked the last time, I asked you how you're able to embody what Jeff Hafley says when he wants his guys to play fast, the disguise stuff and mixing coverages. Is that part of this where you're just like, hey, look, it's still just quarters, cover 3 and cover 2 most of the time. So wherever we start kind of doesn't matter as long as we know to get to our landmarks. Like, is that how you're able to quote play fast and still mix all these coverages? Because at the end of the day, like, oh, it's still just cover 3 or cover 2. Like, there's so many times where I'm like sending a clip to someone and I'm like, hey, is this, you know, like some exotic combo coverage? And they're like, no, that's just cover 3. And it's because by the time the quarterback throws the ball, like so much has changed. Is that part of how you guys are able to play fast? Because at the end of the day, it is just like, hey, we're just in cover 2, really.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely think it is. I think most of it is just, I mean, at least how it goes in my head is that, you know, when the play call comes in, I understand my assignment. You know, I understand where I need to be pre-snap or where I need to get to, you know, be successful for the play. And then, you know, we have our disguise, and then that's kind of just secondary, you know, like the assignment itself, like in the defense are simple enough to where we can play fast. And that has nothing to do with the disguise. The disguise is like almost like the cherry on top for me. Like, okay, we got like, we're able to play fast. I already know what I'm doing. I know where I need to be. And now, all right, let's mess with this quarterback a little bit. Let's, you know, show a little something different than what we're really going to get into, or show exactly what we're getting into. Like, we could play that game for the whole game. And yeah, that's part of the fun of being in this defense. You know, when the ball snaps, you get to play fast, but, you know, pre-snap, you get to get in this quarterback's head.
All right. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. That's okay.
Okay.
But you got a Saints team coming on Monday to your house. Not a lot on the line for them, a backup quarterback. You guys are 13.5-point favorites. I know you guys don't look at that stuff. But how, with the understanding that you're going to be able to watch the tape and see whatever the issues are such that they exist, how do you stay locked in with the understanding that you guys have a lot out in front of you, even against a team that may not have a lot out in front of them? And who is the loudest voice in the locker room saying, guys, we got to be locked in? Or as Matt LaFleur says, if you're not, you're going to get your ass kicked. So how do you do that? Who is helping you do that?
I think a lot of it just lands on the shoulders of just guys with a lot of experience, you know, guys that have kind of been in these situations before where, you know, these so-called trap games come by, and, you know, a team that has no business, or you feel has no business being in the game with you, you know, you look up in the fourth quarter and now it's a 1-possession game or whatever it should be, or it shouldn't be. And so, yeah, you got a lot of, you know, experienced guys just trying to lead us in the right direction. And I feel like a lot of it is just kind of understanding that we there's no, you know, there can't be a dip, especially if we're trying to get to where we need to get to. Like, there's a consistent road to, you know, if you want to be a Super Bowl caliber team, you can't, it's not a light switch. Like, we have to understand that, you know, you got to keep taking these steps. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And so we can't, I mean, we're at the point of the year where simply we can't afford to get any worse right now. You know, to beat the teams that we need to beat, we got to keep going up. And yeah, I mean, I feel like as a team, we've done each week, just understand that no matter who we're playing, just we have to understand we have to put our best foot forward. Otherwise, you know, we're going to get a little worse, and, you know, we just can't afford that around this time of year.
Last thing, and I have to ask about the performance that we just saw from Edgerrin Cooper, because that is, I'm sure, what the Packers envisioned when they took him in the second round. Mm-hmm. The amount of athletic ability that he has, the playmaking that he brings, especially as a safety, to see some of those plays happen and unfold in real time. What does he offer the defense that is maybe unique on this team. Not to take away from anybody else, but just his impact on this team seems to be real, and he's already become such a playmaker for you guys.
Yeah, and I think that's really what distinguishes him is he just has that, elite playmaking ability. He plays with his hair on fire. You watch him from snaps to finish, and he's just a guy that kind of pops on tape just because he's moving at a different speed sometimes. It's really exciting, to as somebody in the back end to be able to kind of just see him work. I don't got to do too much. I'm gonna just be in my zone, do my job, and kind of get to see him rush, get to see him, or the different ways we get to use him. He's a guy that pops on film, and I feel like people are starting to recognize, that he can be a problem. Hopefully offensive lines don't recognize, because we'd love to see him in the backfield, at least a few more times. But he's just a guy that, plays with his hair on fire and is tough to stop.
What's it like? And I know I said Len, but Javon Bullard potentially coming back here, Jair Alexander potentially coming back here as you make this playoff push. Is it fun to imagine the possibilities for this defense getting healthy, like the healthiest version that you just had maybe your best game of the season, and that you guys can get even better here?
Yeah, absolutely. It brings a lot of, excitement to us just as a defense, just because we understand we haven't played our best ball yet, both on the field, and we haven't, had our best collection of guys we feel like so far, with Ja being out, with different guys, week to week getting hurt. It's tough to, really develop a sense of continuity, because some weeks you're talking to somebody at corner, and then some weeks you're talking to somebody else. It's tough in that sense, but it's definitely exciting to understand that, our best ball is ahead of us. If we just get healthy, recover these next few weeks, and heading into the playoffs, we will have definitely a good shot of, getting to where we want to.
Evan, this was great. Thank you so much. Next time, tackle Carrington Valentine in the end zone. Don't let him take it out. And we'll talk to you soon.
I'll try. I don't know if I can, but I'll try.
You can stay up to date all year on the Green Bay Packers by subscribing to Locked On Sports today, and of course, Locked On Packers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Buckeyes' biggest obstacle in the college football playoff may still be Michigan. Rocket Money can help you find subscriptions you forgot about. Have you ever done that? You check your phone and you realize, oh no, I'm paying for something I haven't looked at in months, years, maybe. It's happened to me. It's happened to my wife. Rocket Money makes it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscription, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. My favorite is the subscription tracker. You cancel services you're not using anymore. Plus, with the goals feature, you're able to automatically set aside money for your future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. The Ohio State Buckeyes, the Ohio State Buckeyes host the Tennessee Volunteers in the final game of the first round of the college football playoff. As Locked On Big Ten host Craig Sheeman points out, neither the Buckeyes coach nor quarterback seem to be focused more on the opponent this week than the team that beat them a few weeks ago.
So what's the biggest concern for the Buckeyes heading into this game? What's their biggest threat? It is Michigan. What? What am I talking about? Well, the loss to Michigan better not be living rent-free in the heads of the Buckeyes, because I think it is. They need to put that game behind them and be completely focused, laser focused on Tennessee, a very talented Tennessee team, if they're going to beat them on Saturday night in front of their own home crowd in Columbus, Ohio. However, there are still signs that Michigan is still on their collective minds. Got a couple of examples for you here. Ryan Day was doing an interview this week And he said the Buckeyes have a lot to play for still. And he not so subtly said that some teams are not in the playoffs and have no chance at the national championship like the Buckeyes do. And it was a direct shot at Michigan. And, you know, that game was more than 2 weeks ago, and he's still thinking about it instead of thinking about Tennessee. And he's not the only one. Quarterback Will Howard, he doesn't appear to have shaken off the loss to the team up north either. He's usually pretty upbeat, and he's positive, has an outgoing demeanor about him. But I was talking with my colleague, Jay Stevens from Locked On Buckeyes this week, and he said Howard was down in his press conference. He was tense, short answers, especially when asked what he learned from the Michigan loss and what he could take forward. You know, is this how he feels on his own? Or is this being around Ryan Day for 2 straight weeks? Has it affected his demeanor? Has Ryan Day been a Debbie Downer? Has it affected Will Howard in this manner? Or does it affect Will Howard on his own? That might be a little bit of both, but neither have appeared to have shaken off this loss yet.
Every year, there's a team that goes to bowl season having missed out on the opportunity to play in the old system, the old college football playoff. And more often than not, that team gets worked. So now sometimes we've seen Georgia just miss out and go into a bowl game and run someone over. But we see it go the other way plenty too. Ohio State missed their chance to be one of the top seeds, if not the top seed in this tournament. And they missed out because they couldn't beat their biggest rival in a game where they were 3 touchdown favorites in a rivalry that has not been much of a rivalry the last couple of years. That sort of thing can stick with a team. If you're trying to find the team that is disappointed to be in the college football playoff or disappointed with their seeding and ends up laying an egg in the first round, this is the team. And finally, Alabama narrowly missed a college football playoff appointment, something the AD knows just how to fix. All you need to do, if you're a Bama fan, is give the school more money. Crimson Tide Athletic Director Greg Burns said in a letter on social media, "You've heard examples of other teams using promises of $1 million paydays to lure away our players or convince them not to come to Alabama. It is time for Bama Nation to fight back. We've officially turned college football into televangelism, or in this case, like politicians who something happens and they use it as a fundraising opportunity. Expect this to happen even more from your alma maters. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, then make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, can Lamar Jackson finally get a win over the Steelers? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.